name is Kunal. I am the I'm the medical product development management interim director right now at San Jose State. I also teach a few classes as part of this program, and I'm just excited to have you join us on this webinar today. To get us going, this is going to be very interactive. So we'll talk through questions and I'll share some really cool insights as we move along. So first, my first question is, are you looking to develop skills and career in medical product development? Because that I think is the foundation of our conversation today. So I want to hear what do you think, Tanya? Where are you in that journey?
Yes. So I graduated with my undergrad with biology and chemistry, and I currently work in biotech as a gene therapy as a cell therapy specialist. And everything that I do right now in the moment is currently like in clinical trials as well. So I want to develop more within my field and just grow more.
That's
Um,
great.
Also, I took a course last semester with Professor Mullen, so Regulatory Affairs 1, and that really overlapped with currently what I'm doing at work. So even to the disease that we're help curing, so it has really helped me a lot.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Okay, so you did this as part of the Open University with Professor Mullins. Is that what it was? Got it. Okay. And then now you're considering to joining the program. Is that where you are?
Yes. So
Okay.
I was told by Dr. Green last summer to start taking the online courses to get a feel for the program and to see if it's something I want to fully pursue. And that's what I've been doing.
Okay, I understand. Got it. Okay, great. So this is good context for me. So before we get started, I always ask people to get a piece of paper, pen, water, and a notebook, because I try to share a lot of valuable information on the webinars, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. So if you need whatever tools you need, grab them now, and then we can move forward. Distractions, are everywhere, including for myself. My phone, I just put it on airplane mode. So, if you are on your cell phone or, Instagram, social media, do your best to get rid of them. This is a key part. I feel like, bringing the right energy to the conversation and the webinar is really important. So I encourage you to bring an emotion. Maybe you're curious about the program. Maybe you are excited to learn something new that you didn't know before. Maybe you just want to educate yourself on what's new and trending. So whatever it is, be courageous, excited, whatever emotion you want to bring to the table, that'd be great. So pick one emotion that you are currently looking to bring to this webinar. All right, so I want to maybe ask you this question. What's the hardest part? I know you're working as a cell therapy specialist, but what's been hard about developing your career in this space? Can you tell me a little bit more?
So this was the first job that I get that's in biotech. I actually worked in like clinical laboratories during undergrad and a little bit afterwards. So switching roles from clinical laboratory to biotech, now it's called like manufacturing. So we manufacture for Yescartis and Tecartus. I think that switch itself was a little challenging. However, it did open up a lot more doors on what I can do to develop myself within my career. Also, switching the roles is not just behind the science now, but it's also business. So learning more the business aspect and growing within that side of my career as well. And more networking. I guess that was the hardest part when I initially started with the company. However, I feel like the more you put yourself out there and you network with different people and like with different departments, you get to learn how everything comes together at once to help cure a patient. So I guess that whole transition from clinical laboratories to actually the manufacturing was a little, I guess, the most challenging part, just because it is called differently, even though, sometimes it could be doing the same thing. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
Yeah,
But
you are. So are you now in manufacturing? Is that where you are?
yes, so I'm in manufacturing.
Okay. And are you interested in going into clinical trials next?
Yes.
Is that case? Okay, perfect. I think so now you're kind of doing this whole thing again, right? What you did previously about trying to get into manufacturing, now you're trying to go from manufacturing into clinical trials.
Correct.
Right. Okay, got it. So great. So I want to maybe ask you, what are your expectations from today? Obviously, you're the only one on the call, so you get to really tell me, like, we can tailor the conversation. I have obviously my slides prepared, but I also want to make sure, I'm kind of addressing your expectations for today.
Okay. My expectations are more, I guess you can say, I want to learn more about the program, as in, like, I know right now the courses, so I'm based in LA.
Mm-hmm,
So I know the courses that I'm taking right now are online,
mm-hmm,
and some of the courses are in person.
mm-hmm,
However, I want to know more about the courses themselves, and also, like, for example, yourself, like what you've done in, like, in the biotech industry, or what led you to this point of teaching the courses that you are teaching now, and what interest your spark, like what got you here, and also expectations, I guess. um we can probably, I'm not sure if you have it in your slides, but go over the alumni, so the students that have gotten their degrees
mm-hmm,
through this program, and like there's where they are now in, like, their career path, and
mm-hmm.
are they in clinical trials, or how are they doing, like.
Right. That's great. So I will start from the last question first. Where are students? What are the alumni doing? So we actually are going to have an alumni join us on this call in about 20 to 25 minutes. So his name is Scott Jung. So once Scott joins, you can talk to him directly, and you'll get an idea of what he's up to and what he's doing. Obviously, I'll share with you what other alumni are doing, but I will be honest with you, I'm not in touch with every single alumni. I think we're in the process of kind of figuring out where everybody is in their career journey and their trajectory. But Scott is definitely one of them that he can shed light to his experience through this program and what he's doing now. In terms of for myself, that's a great question. So I don't mind talking about myself. I try not to talk too much about myself because this is all about you and the students. My background is and I'm an engineering and computer science student when I graduated from college. And my first job out of college was in clinical trials, and I have worked with Fortune 500 companies like Abbott, Dexcom, uh, pretty large organizations doing clinical trials. All my experience is in medical device clinical trials on the sponsor side. So I work with medical device companies, not so much on the academic or the hospital or clinic side. I've worked on pretty large scale trials, about trials as big as $60 million that I was solely responsible for. These trials were global trials working in different geographies around the globe, like 18 plus countries. I still do a lot of consulting, through my, as a self-employed person, through my company. I do that, and that helps me stay current with what's happening, on a day-to-day basis in the field. But on the education side through MPDM, I actually started this because I wanted to give back and share everything I've learned, through my experience and knowledge, managing large teams, working on large projects, and how can others learn from the experience that I have gained over the years. But I would say out of 17 years that I've worked, in clinical trials, 12 of those have been with Abbott Labs, which is a pretty large organization you may have heard of. But I've also worked with a startup in the Bay Area, heading up their clinical research department, and working closely with the co-founder at that startup. So I did that for about 3 years before joining San Jose State officially earlier this year as the MPDM director. Does that give you a good idea of my background and kind of where I'm coming from?
Yeah, of course, that was more than I expected, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I forgot to mention, I do host a very popular podcast. It's called the Clinical Trial Podcast. You can check it out. That's my website, clinicaltrialpodcast.com. It has no affiliation with San Jose State University, but you can definitely take a look on all the work I put out on that show, and it's specifically for clinical research professionals.
Okay, I'll definitely check it out.
Okay, great. Awesome. So today, in this webinar, we're going to talk about three different things. So one is I want to, educate you or share with you like where we are in the healthcare sector. Like what is the current state, in the healthcare in the healthcare sector. I think this is really important to kind of understand like what the future looks like in the next 20, 30 years. I mean, nobody can predict exactly everything, but I think with the with COVID and all of that, with the pandemic, I think people have really, tuned in more into their health. Obviously, there's technology advancements on, happening in general, which are enabling or pushing the healthcare sector in different directions. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And then in the halfway point, we'll talk about like how do you communicate in the healthcare sector. And I feel you kind of talked about networking when you were explaining me what kind of the approach you've taken for your career, and I want to maybe expand on that a little bit more, is about working with teams and how do you effectively work with teams. So I'll give you some tools and strategies around that. And then in the last part of the presentation, we'll actually do a real world example of how to put together like a project timeline. That timeline, it's mostly like a sample lecture. And I think you kind of have done that with Dr. Mullins or Professor Mullins on the regulatory side, but this is more on the project management side of like, how do you put together a project timeline? How do you create beautiful timelines that you can then roll up to your senior leadership and also work with the teams? And that's something we teach in class, but I figured it might be a good thing to include it in this webinar. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, good. Awesome. Okay, good. So talk about healthcare topics trending. So this is a search term that's been exploding. As you can see in the bottom right, it says 2,900 searches a month and a growth of about 700% over the last 15 years. So the word healthcare AI, a lot of people are searching it. My startup that I was at, and which is where Scott is working right now, Scott, the alumni who's going to join us, that startup, is basically leveraging AI to create a groundbreaking EEG, which is measuring your brain waves kind of tool. So EEG has traditionally taken like 4 or 5 hours to do. With like a new technology that's AI enabled, you can do an EEG in a patient with seizures in less than 5 minutes. So obviously there's a lot of AI driven activities that are happening in healthcare, which is kind of replacing a lot of the traditional medical products that were analog or may not have that technology component to them. Another thing that's happening, or searches that are happening, is around on the word Internet of Things in healthcare. So, interconnected patient care that allows real-time healthcare monitoring and access of data. So like products like the continuous blood glucose monitoring system, previously when you wanted to measure blood glucose in a patient with diabetes, you kind of had to prick their finger and then you'd get a sample of blood and then you would kind of know what their blood glucose level was in that instant of time. Now you can do that continuously in real time, and you can kind of sync up different systems. Like we do that with the Apple Watch. Like Apple Watch collects this data on your health, and then it kind of syncs up with multiple systems. So there's a lot of push in that direction. Basically, being able to collect a series of data points, in many ways, continuous data points on patients, and kind of connecting that with the healthcare systems and so on. So the physician and the the provider basically has a much more overall understanding of the patient's health. I literally, before this webinar today, I got off a podcast interview with the VP of Clinical Research at Mercy in St. Louis, Missouri, and the VP there is Joanne Levy. And Joanne told me about precision medicine, which kind of did catch me off guard, but clearly they have created a whole new division that just does precision medicine and kind of using variable devices, like, and we'll talk about a variable device shortly, like the Aura Ring. How can you provide more like precise information and personalized medical treatments to patients, and the AI obviously is driving a lot of that, and in our ability to do that. So one of the courses that we have in this program is the bioinformatics course, and that touches on some of these topics. So I wanted to kind of highlight that. So some of the questions that are being asked right now is, how can AI improve the point of care diagnostics like ultrasounds? How can AI make medical imaging analysis more efficient and accurate? So rather than having the radiologist look at every image, can we leverage AI to do some of the heavy lifting for us, so we don't have to do, as humans, have to do the work? We can definitely check what the AI did, but then let the AI do the difficult part of kind of deciding or figuring out what happened in a cancer patient from baseline visit to a 1-year visit, and how did their tumor size change over the course of that duration. Obviously that ties back to the cancer diagnosis and treatment, and it helps you like make better treatment decisions based on the patient. And then finally, AI is helping us accelerate drug discovery rather than taking years and years to figure out if a compound will work. With artificial intelligence, you can make quick simulations and decisions on whether or not this drug will make its way through the whole clinical trial pipeline. So specifically, I haven't tested this product, but I'm very attracted to it. I think it's very promising. It's called the Aura Ring. I don't know if you've heard of it, but basically it's a ring that tracks your sleep. You put it on your finger. This company is doing some clinical trials in the space of like women's health, for example. They can predict based on your body temperature whether or not you're going to have, or when are you going to have your periods, or when are you going to be ovulating, and so on, which is kind of really cool. Like, you don't have to do any tests, and you just wear this ring all the time. And I'm kind of excited that this is going to be, everybody has a different, like every woman is different. Everybody has, different hormonal systems and so on. And then this ring can track this in real time without having you to do anything. So again, this was like a cool example. So these are like the types of medical products that we discuss as part of our program. The next piece I want to talk about before we do that. Just stopping right here. What part of this presentation, like we talk about precision medicine, the Aura Ring, and then the search terms that people are looking for. What was most valuable for you from this part of the discussion?
Honestly, it's not me being biased, but the Aura Ring.
Okay.
It's not a biased opinion, but that's amazing. I've never heard of that. And that would be only for women or for men as well? Because it tracks sleep, right?
It does track sleep, and people are using it right now. It's on the market. Like, you could go to Aura, I think it's aura.com, and you can purchase the ring to track sleep. But they're doing clinical trials on other adjacent use cases, which was like in women's health, for example.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And this would be part of the precise and personalized medicine you were talking about, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Because like, say, like, if somebody has a different like hormonal system, then their cycles are going to be a little different, right, than another lady or another woman, right? So the doctor can quickly and then this allows the doctor to look at results in real time. Like, you don't even have to go to the doctor's office, because if you sync up this system with the doctor's office, and the doctor is going to get that data and be able to tell and treat accordingly.
Oh, that's amazing. So this is like a spin-off of like the what is it called, that the little machine that reads your glucose?
Yeah, the CGM. That's what. Yeah, continuous glucose monitor. I mean, that's a different product. So the Dexcom and Abbott Freestyle Libre are two like leading CGM systems that do continuous glucose monitoring. Yeah, so it's similar. Yeah, again, that's also doing precision medicine based on different metabolic factors in the way your body type is, and your BMI and so on. You'll have different, or the way your diabetes is being treated, or where you are in your diabetic journey, you can get different outputs.
Gotcha. Oh, wow. I'm learning a lot today. I like this.
Okay, great. The next piece I want to talk about is wages. So obviously money is, we all need money to live and breathe and do things that we love and so on. And I got this data from the Department of Labor in the US, and on their website, they basically lay out what the median wages are for medical and health services manager. And these are, median means like in the middle. So half the people make less money and the other half make more money. So these are the different dollars. A lot of people that work in the private sector are kind of at that 120 range, the half point, and then half the people make less and the other half make more. So just kind of to highlight like how much people are earning in this space. I think you're already in biotech, so you kind of know like where where things are and so on. I mean, you've kind of put your foot in the door. For a lot of time, people aren't even there yet, right? And obviously this doesn't take into account how many years of experience you have. So this is like all across the board. So if you're early in your career, obviously it might be on the lower side, and that's not an issue. But this is just to give you an idea of where people are. This particular slide deck compares medical and health services manager with other occupations and other management occupations and just other occupations in general. So other occupations are around $45,760 versus health sciences manager median wages are $101,000. And this is as of May 2021, again, from the Department of Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is my most favorite slide probably in the whole deck. I like to see the projected change in employment from 2020 to 2030 in the medical and health services manager. So as you can see, there's a 32% growth in the medical and health services manager type of roles compared to other management occupations. So other management occupations are only 9%. So as you can see, there's huge potential and huge growth in this area. Again, this graphic is from the Department of Labor and Statistics. So I want to take a pause here for a second and ask you, what about the future do you find most exciting?
So I mean, from the future, it's just amazing what we're doing now and curing so many diseases. Even now, some processes are even automatic. So I'm more excited to see what we can do to develop more devices to help personally, because I work in cancer within cancer patients. What we do more in the cancer field, as in it's advanced, but however, I would like to see in the next 10 years what else we are putting out there to cure more specific cancers that are obviously not looked at as much. As of now, I believe, because I work with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma patients, I feel like there's more cancers out there that don't get that much, I guess,
Attention.
light in them.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to see where the tech world goes into actually helping. Like it's more like intersectional. So like the tech world meets the medicine world, and we build more of a future where it's more sustainable for cancer patients.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Mm-hmm. That's great. And then the next thing I want to talk about is skills. So again, this slide also I got from the government data. I like government databases because they tell you like, they're kind of more neutral and non-biased, I feel, than like private databases. But they talk about 6 skills that you need to succeed in the healthcare or the the medical science sector. And the 6 skills are right here on the slide, as you can read: analytical, communication, detail-oriented, interpersonal, leadership, and technical. The cool part about these 6 skills is 4 out of these 6 are really called as soft skills or people skills. So communication skills, interpersonal skills, leadership skills, detail-oriented, they're kind of really, you can lump them into like people skills or soft skills, like just how do you work with each other, how do you work with other people, and how do you keep kind of yourself organized. And that has probably not much to do with the other 2. So the analytical and technical skills are really important, but 2/3 of the skill sets that you need are in the people or soft skills sector. So I feel like this is good. One of the things that I like to cover in my courses is how can you work better with other human beings, and I feel that's a really important piece of the puzzle in kind of moving your projects forward. So I think the next few slides we're going to talk specifically about communication skills, and I'm going to share a cool resource with you. You can check out this book. It's called Exactly What You Say by Phil M. Jones, and Phil has done an amazing job of putting together this book. It talks about the magic words for influence and impact, and he has about 23 or so phrases that you can use in your written oral communication, whichever one you prefer. And the idea here is to forward the conversation with other people that are on your team that you're working with cross-functionally and so on. So today we're going to review 3 of the 23 or so phrases that he has, but if you're interested in digging more, you can purchase this book. It's available where books are sold. So the three communication skills or 3 communication phrases that I want to focus on is 1, I'm guessing you've not gotten around to, you have 3 options, and then what makes you say that. So let's kind of jump into each one of those. So I don't know if you've been in situations where, have you been in a situation where you kind of email somebody and they never get back to you? Does that happen at all to you?
Yes.
Okay, and then what do you do if that happens?
Guessing the situation, it depends the situation. If it's more professional, I guess not professional, I would say, but like within my work field, if I were, for example, to email a colleague and they never got back to me, it's polite to wait if it's not time sensitive, 24 hours. And if I don't hear back from them, I would gladly message them again and just be like, just friendly reminder, I did not hear back from you. Wonder what are your thoughts.
Yeah.
And I guess professor wise, if they don't respond, I know professors are more they're busy. However, I do give them like probably like 48 hours, like business days, because the weekend gets around and sometimes you have to have common sense that people also do have lives. So I do wait about like 48 hours before I resend them a message, just to make sure that it didn't go to spam or they actually saw it.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Perfect. So yeah, I think you basically say, hey, I'm sending a friendly reminder. I haven't heard back from you. Right. So that's one way to do it. Right. Another way that Phil talks about in this book is using this phrase, I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to. So basically you'd say, hey, I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to responding, reviewing my email below. And that gives them the benefit of doubt, like maybe they're busy and they just haven't had time to review your email. A lot of people use the word follow up, which is kind of really annoying because nobody wants to be followed up on. People just want to be left alone. They will get back to you when they can, right? So this is a neat little phrase. I've used it quite a few times, just giving people the benefit of doubt. And then they're like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I was just about to send you an email and so on. So when you apply for a job, a lot of people that are looking for roles in clinical trials and so on, they're applying for jobs and they don't hear back. So I think using this phrase is a good way to follow up, but not using the word follow up. You ask a question, you don't hear back, so you use that phrase. And then, if you're working in the business sector, if you're sending proposals and so on to people and you don't hear back, that's another way to reach back out. So the next phrase, and I like this one a lot, you have 3 options. So a lot of times people will, you're trying to make a decision and people are not willing to make a decision, or they don't know what decision to make. I think by giving them 3 options, you give them an opportunity to pick one of those 3 options, and those are more in line with what you're thinking, rather than them kind of coming up with their own ideas on what the solution should be, or no solution at all, or no decision. So I think giving people 3 options is a great strategy. So the way Phil explains it in his book is to giving people 3 options. You have 3 options, option 1, 2, and 3. So the idea here is to give them a really terrible option as your first option, a not so great option as your second option, and the third option as your preferred choice. So say, I'm trying to think of a good example when I used this recently. Yeah, I mean, if I'm negotiating a contract with a supplier, I'll say, hey, you have 3 options. One is, you give us a 50% discount on your services because that's what we can afford. The second option is, not so great. We want you to give us give this to us at 70% discount, but we also require that you add 3 other things to the proposal or to the contract, and they're not very thrilled about that. And the third option is your preferred choice. You give it to us at 70%, but we can't do a 3-year agreement. We can only do a 1-year agreement. So if they're pushing for a 3-year agreement, you kind of get them to agree on a 1-year agreement, and then it's still your preferred option. It's kind of in line with what they they're open with. So that's a way to. It also serves as a way to negotiate like contracts, for example. And a lot of, in clinical trials, we do a lot of contracts with hospitals and clinics, and vice versa. Hospital and clinics do contracts with sponsors and medical product companies. So being able to use this negotiation strategy, I think, is priceless. And then finally, a lot of times people will say, people make very absurd comments. It's like, oh, this new treatment is not working for our patients. Like doctors can say that, or your budget is too high for the services being performed, or you don't have the skills needed for this role. Like people that are like, for you, like if you're not in clinical research, there might be somebody who may tell you like, hey, you don't have the skills needed to be working in clinical trials. And then I think the way you object to that or ask them the question, rather than being dejected and feeling like, what the hell did you just tell me? You say, hey, what makes you say that? And I think that kind of creates some sort of, people will pause and think about like, why did they even say that? And they'll be able to explain you or give you more details. And if they don't have an answer, then that's that. And your issue's almost resolved, because then they'll be like, yeah, I understand. Like, yeah, you may not like have done any clinical trials, but I can see how you can do it based on the knowledge you've gained in your courses and so on. So I think using this phrase, I think, can also serve as a great negotiation tool, but also kind of getting people to understand like they're making statements that are not backed based on facts. So those are my three favorite phrases from Phil's book. Obviously, he has way more. So the first one is, I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to. The second one is, you have three options. And the third one is, what makes you say that? So I'm going to pause here for a second to see, what was most useful for you here.
I have one question. So
Yes.
if we go back to the slide of you have three options, and you put that scenario, the one that you explained, would it be in that order? Is that what we're
It
saying?
will be in that order. Yes.
Oh, okay. This is new to me, because I
Yeah.
would assumed that the terrible option would be number 3, right?
No, this would be the order.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was my only question. And then what was your question? I'm sorry.
Oh, what was most useful for you here on this part of the presentation?
The last point. What makes you say that?
Okay, got it. And what about it?
So in that case, I guess I've never been placed in a situation where I've been told that, like, oh, you don't have the skill set. But there's never say never, because there may be a chance when I'm told that. And this just basically reassures me that actually, if I do ask them like, what makes you say that, it'll get them thinking, just like you said, and make them thinking as to why are they coming to that conclusion, as to why they assume that I don't have the necessary skill sets.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
You got it. Exactly. Good. Yeah, I think this is a very powerful phrase. So the more you practice, the more you remember that you can use it, right? So try next time when you're in a conversation, try one of these three. I'm guessing you haven't heard back, or you have three options, and what makes you say that? All right. So the next piece is actually going to be more like hands-on type of exercise that we're going to do. We're going to create project timelines. So the issue with clinical trial, or just any project timelines, is the software is very difficult or clunky to use. Like, I don't like Microsoft Project. I know a lot of people use it to create timelines, but I find it very non-user friendly. Timelines are not presentable. So, if you send somebody a spreadsheet of timelines, it's kind of hard to like go through all the data, right? Or like understand, like, there's so many line items, like where do you focus on and what dates to look at, and it's not very easy to kind of get a high level picture, especially for senior leaders and VPs and so on, presidents of companies. I think for them, they're getting so much information at their desk, and they need to make decisions, and if they don't have information in a presentable format, it makes it very difficult. On the flip side, number 3, lack of necessary detail. So if you use a very high level timeline with only a few high level things, then the project team that's working on the projects, they're like, well, I don't know all the detailed steps that need to be done from point A to point B. So that's another challenge. And then the fourth challenge is it's kind of difficult to maintain and update. In clinical trials, timelines change a lot. The reason being that the patient enrollment can sometimes be unpredictable. You don't really know how many patients you're going to enroll and by when. You can do your best guess, and then you can put in a lot of effort in trying to recruit patients, but sometimes you just don't know and you need to update your timelines because it's going to take you more time or less time to complete enrollment. And then finally, they're just difficult to understand. Like, how do you make sense of a timeline that's put in front of you? So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to create an easy to use timeline that's beautiful, is complete, has all the details you need, and then it's easy to update and easy to follow. So let's do it together. So let me share my screen with you. Oh, yeah, I'm already sharing my screen with you. So I have created just an Excel spreadsheet with a simple like deliverable, like different tasks, as you can see: developing a study protocol, creating a site budget, which is like how much you are paying the clinic to conduct the clinical trial, the institutional review board IRB submission packet. So you're supposed to send the consent form to and the protocol to the IRB for ethical review. Then you submit everything to the ethics board or the institutional review board. Then they approve things. Then you schedule the training at the site. You enroll your first patient, and then you recruit your patients, and then you collect all the data, and then you analyze the data, and then you publish the report. So these are the kind of high-level steps of all the things that you need to do. So for the purposes of this, let's say Kunal will develop the protocol, Tanya will finalize the budget, Kunal will create the submission packet, Kunal will submit the packet, Kunal will obtain IRB approval, Albert will do the training, Albert will conduct the training, and Tanya will be responsible for first patient in. The sites will be responsible for recruiting patients, and then Tanya will do the analysis, and then Tanya will do the report publication. So we're just using this as placeholders. Then let's see how much time it takes to do each of these. So let's say it takes us 30 days to write the protocol. Let's take us 5 days to create the site budget. It takes us 5 days to create the IRB submission packet. It takes 1 day to submit to the IRB. It takes 20 days to get, maybe not 20, maybe 15 days to get IRB approval. It takes another 10 days to schedule the training, or maybe 5 days. It takes 1 day to conduct the training, and then you kind of enroll your first patient in 10 days after that. And then your patient recruitment takes maybe 200 days, because it's a 1-year recruitment duration. Data analysis takes another 40 days, and then report publication takes another 60 days, or maybe 30 days. Let's just use that. Okay, so 30. And then in terms of start date, I think let's just put today's date is February 9th. Okay, 1 second. Okay, there you go. So February 9th, and then there's only one formula you need to know to create this timeline, and that is equal to work day, open parentheses, the start date, comma, calendar days, and then that's that. So this is the formula, as you can see: work day, the start date, when you're going to start the project or start the task, and then the number of calendar days it's going to take. The beauty of this formula, workday, is all it does is it removes all the weekends and holidays from your timelines. So you don't really need to manually look up which days and so on. The next thing you do is you basically use you're finalizing the budget. Your start date is the end date of the previous task. So you can just say this is the start date, and then hit enter. Okay, and then you just the way you do that is you just copy this formula all the way, you drag it here, and let's drag it here, and that's it. So as you can see, we have our timeline ready. You don't really need to do much except knowing this one formula, number of days you need to do each of the tasks, what are the actual tasks, and who's doing them, and that's that. So we're starting our project on 9th Feb 2023. We're going to finish it by 20th May 2024. And then I hit save. Then I use this really cool tool called Office Timeline. So I am going to log into Office Timeline. And I don't believe I have a paid account anymore, but let's see. So you click on login. I'm just going to use, let's just use, it's going to work in my browser. So make timelines now. And then the way I do this is click new, import data, import from Excel, browse file. Let's see. This is the timeline example that we just updated. Hit open. So these are the tasks. Basically, this is all that was in the spreadsheet. It imported all that data. Click next. It has this doesn't have the end date, right? So I'm just dragging and dropping the start date, end date, title, and that's all you need for the timelines. Click next. And then these are all your different deliverables. Click import. And then let's say submitting to the IRB is your milestone that you're really proud of. And then maybe first patient in is another important milestone that you're really proud of. And then that's it. And then all you do is click on the word timeline, and then it creates this beautiful timeline for you. You see that?
Yeah. Well, this is the first time I'm learning this. I seen this from a timeline similar to like this for the project that I did for Professor Mullins for one of the clinical trials.
Oh, I see. You have
Yeah.
seen it, you're saying?
I've seen a timeline like this, yeah, because we're working, the project that we're working on included a timeline like this.
I see. Great. Yeah. So that's that. And then you hit download, and then you can download it in PowerPoint, an image or data, Excel data. So the beauty of this process is, and I'll show this to you, is, well, my thing is I don't have the paid license, so you can see, but you can kind of see what it does, right? It gives you this beautiful timeline that you can then include in your slide decks and share it with your senior leadership.
Nice. I love it. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So the thing is, you can show this beautiful timeline to your project team and your senior leadership, and then the Excel spreadsheet can be something that your project team can use as well, right? So if people are looking for more details, they can refer to the Excel sheet. But if they need just high level timelines, then they go look at the slide deck. Let's see. I think Scott is on the line, so I want him to connect with us. Hey, Scott, are you with us? Let me see. We can. Yeah. Can you hear us? We can.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Scott, for joining. It's good to hear your voice.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. So, Scott, we have Tanya on the line. We only have one webinar attendee, but we've had a great conversation today. And you are, I think your participation is very important, because I think one of the questions that Tanya started asking when we started is like, what are alumni of this program doing, and where are they in their career? So I think maybe you can start with telling us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then how did you get into your current role, and so on. So maybe that's a good starting point, and then I'll let Tanya ask any other questions that she might have.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Scott. I graduated in 2019. I also have a bachelor's in biomedical engineering from the University of Southern California. So kind of early on, I always kind of knew I wanted to be in the med tech industry, specifically in the medical device industry. So when it came to looking for higher education, there's a lot of options that I had. I could have gone to med school, farm school, law school, business school. But I came across the MPDM program at San Jose State, and it seemed like a really good fit for the things I was interested in, which was kind of more business-like aspects with startups, but with a focus on medical products. So it was definitely the perfect program for me. Right now, I am a solutions engineer at Ceribell, which Kunal, you know very well, because you actually referred me to the job as you were formerly there. So grateful for that. Yeah, as a solutions engineer, I get to work with our customers every day, helping them troubleshoot problems and making sure that the product works the way that they need it to work in their hospitals. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to right now.
That's great. I think one of the things we talked about was artificial intelligence and the role of artificial intelligence in medical product development. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about the product that you're working on, or any observations you've had throughout your career, or your recent career in this space?
Yeah, so our product is an EEG recorder. EEG, of course, is a device, a technology that reads your brain's signals essentially. And our product is meant to help in the diagnosis of status epilepticus, seizures and things like that. And so as on the forefront, it's just basically a Wi-Fi connected EEG monitor. But where the AI comes in is we transmit the EEG data up to the cloud where it's processed to help look for trends. We're also looking to see if the data can be used for other diseases, for delirium and for other things that you might not think about. And so it's really cool seeing that how just simple brain signals can be really used to help diagnose and treat other diseases that might not even be connected when you think about it to the brain itself.
That's great. Thank you, Scott. Tanya, I'm going to open up for questions that you might have for Scott.
For the EEG monitor, it's probably a question out of context, but is it when it's placed on the patient with epilepsy or seizures, is it placed for a certain amount of a time, or is it at what point in the patient's health did you guys place the monitor, or is it for certain cases only?
Yeah, so for Cerebell's EEG specifically, it's meant for critical care. So it's meant when the patient comes into the ER, to the ICU, and they, for seizures or things like that. So they need to be monitored, typically for a short period of time, usually about 24 hours, but our device can be used for longer periods if necessary. But yeah, that's kind of the difference between traditional EEG, which involves, the 24 different electrodes applied to the scalp in a very careful way by a trained person, as opposed to our device, which is basically a headband that pretty much any, technician or nurse can put on. So it's meant to be put on very quickly and monitored, patient monitored in the ICU or the ER, basically.
So for the traditional EEG monitors, I believe the results are given within 24 hours or 48 hours. With the monitor that you're talking about for AI, is this monitor continuously sending results to the physician, or how is the data being delivered to the medical professionals?
Yeah, so it's a Wi-Fi connected device, so it streams up to our EEG portal, and the physicians can, log into the portal and view the waveforms in real time. We also have our AI component called Clarity, which basically calculates something called a seizure burden. It kind of looks at the waveforms over 5-minute periods to kind of detect if the patient is in states where they might be prone to more seizures or things like that, or if their brain is a little bit more stable.
Okay. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are the only two questions I had at the moment.
Sure. I would also want to add, Scott was, at least my recollection, Scott, of you is you were also a very active student. When you were part of the program, you were trying to learn new things, and I bet you still are. But you went to South by Southwest, if I'm not mistaken, at some point, and I think one of the I think things I want to highlight with that is we want our students to be also very proactive in their careers and trying to learn and grow. And it's also very student dependent, right? If you didn't do the things, Scott, you did, then you probably wouldn't be where you are. I think even with the role, and I know I appreciate you making a comment about hey, I helped you get this job. But I think one of the things that I think is important to add to that is you were the one who reached out to me saying, hey, Kunal, I see that you were working here, I've worked here. Tell me more, and connect me with the right people, right? Is that right? Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Exactly.
And probably there's a follow-up question to Scott. As a student in this program, and taking the courses, did it give you an option to actually stay within the field and actually work Because as I'm not sure Professor Kunal said, but I'm currently working in biotech and I would prefer to stay working in my field while going to school just to gain more experience. Did this as a student in this program, did that allow you to do that?
Yeah, so the great thing about this program is it's very comprehensive. You know, you learn everything from the design stage of a medical product all the way through the regulatory, through the clinical process, through approval, even some more business aspects like managing teams, doing project management. But it's not only limited to, you know, medical devices like Kanal and I are more into, but you'll learn about the regulatory process for drugs. You'll learn about the regulatory process for devices since they have very different tracks. So it's very broad in the types of things that you can learn. So that'll allow you to hop over from, you know, biotech to med device and vice versa if you want to. For me, for a little bit, I actually hopped over from medical devices into clinical trial management at an EDC, an electronic data capture company. And I think the knowledge that I gained from the MPDM program helped me just understand that industry a little bit better and kind of become more easily trained and oriented to that company.
Yeah, and I think what the other part of this, I think Tanya's question is, were you working full time when you were taking this program, or were you only doing the program?
Oh yeah, I was working full time with a actually during the course I worked for a couple companies.
No,
So
wow,
yeah, they
okay,
were both startups, medical device startups actually.
great. Thank
Yep.
you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. That was really helpful.
Uh-huh, my pleasure.
Awesome, Scott. I'm gonna let you sign off. I appreciate your time. Tanya, you don't have any other questions for him, is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, okay, great. Scott, thank you. We'll catch up soon.
All right, thanks, Kanal.
Okay, bye. All right, so good. Well, that was great. Okay, so that was yeah, we were on the timeline piece, Tanya. And then this is kind of like what I showed you, right? The pretty timeline. You can they have different layouts that you can use. I want to maybe transition into talking about the program as a whole, but before I do that, any other questions or comments based on what Scott shared or what I've talked about so far? Um,
Not at the moment, but everything has been quite informal. I like it. Um, it's just reaffirmed about how I want to join the program, and I really enjoy it.
okay, great. Thank you. So this program, the MPDM, is a 2-year master's degree, part of College of Sciences, and offered through the Continuing Education and Professional Education Department at San Jose State. The tuition is $31,500. Obviously, that is subject to change based on the university requirements, but for this coming fall, this is the tuition. In terms of the courses, I think I'll just start with the fall semester. So the clinical development seminar 1 is focused more on the design of the clinical trials themselves. Like, how do you design a protocol? How can you think about like just the foundation, like on the scientific side or the research side, like how can you think about the scientific question that you have about your research. Then we have a class on managing people, that's offered through the business school, but part of the MPDM program. And then we have a regulatory affairs course, which you've taken with Professor Mullins on the biopharmaceutical side. And then in the spring semester of year 1, we have a clinical development seminar 2, and this one more focuses on the operational aspects of clinical trials in comparison with the scientific side. So it's a little bit different, in its approach. Then we get into project management and business law and ethics. And the business law and ethics is offered through the business school, and then the project management is the one I teach in the spring semester. And then we have regulatory affairs 2, which is on the device side. So Dr. Mullins or Professor Mullins teaches the 283A, which is the pharma, and then it's the device. In year 2, we do special topics in clinical trial management. This is a 280 to 289A course. And then we have, if you didn't do the project management before, then you do it, in the fall next year. If you did it, then we kind of go back and forth. But you still need to take those classes. And then we have Dr. Suleika Anand, who teaches the statistical methods in clinical trials, and she's part of the College of Science. And finally, in the spring semester of your second year, we have your capstone project, which is kind of building up on all the information and the insights that you've gained throughout the program. And then we have Professor Lumba, who teaches the managing medical product development lifecycle. And he's actually been part of the program from the very beginning, and students love him. And then finally, we have the bioinformatics course taught by the computer science department at San Jose State in drug and device. So that's kind of the curriculum at a glance. Any questions or comments or thoughts here?
No, I've seen this on the website. I'm actually familiar with it. And actually this semester of spring semester, I'm actually taking regulatory affairs too with you.
Oh,
So
that's great. Okay,
we'll be
great.
seeing each other again. I actually just submitted about a week ago, I submitted the form to the Open University so it can get approved.
Got
But
it.
I already got the access code and everything from Dr. Saleka.
Okay, that's awesome. Great. The 285, I meant to comment on it, the summer / spring. So that's being taught by Vivan Tran, and Vivan is actually where she's awesome, and she is including. So we're doing a career workshop this year as part of that class, and we're in the process of kind of, so people like can learn how to get, they'll hear from a couple of guest speakers, career coaches, and then we are going to dig deep into the resume workshop and LinkedIn, how to have a solid LinkedIn profile and so on. So that's kind of the piece that one unit course is also going to cover.
Okay.
Who's it for? So here are the different titles of people that graduate from the program. I mean, you heard Scott, he was a solutions engineer, and it's right here on the right-hand side right here, if you can see my cursor. But then there's all these different titles, director of clinical affairs, clinical program manager, project assistant, data managers, there's a lot of different roles, as you can see. Program requirements. So are you intending to apply for the program for the fall, or are you just going to do this through Open University?
I plan to apply for the program.
Okay, got it. Okay, so yeah, then this is important slide for you. So there's a BS degree, which is bachelor's degree. You need to have that from an accredited university. We need your transcripts, and then graduate transcripts if applicable. There's a GPA requirement. I think we do recommend 3.0, but 2.5 is where because I think since this is a professional program, we're not so hung up on the base GPA, and we want to keep that open. But we do recommend 3.0. And then we did change some of the requirements with the recommendation letter. So now you only require to submit 2 instead of 3. We do need your current resume and a statement of purpose. Statement of purpose, basically, it can be anywhere from 500 to 750 words, just explaining why do you want to be in the program? How do you see yourself utilizing this information or the insights that you've gained from this program to grow your career in medical product development, and then what makes you well suited to be part of this program. So I think those would be the key elements of the statement of purpose. Here's my email address. I think we're going to share these slides with you, but if you want to have a follow-up call with me, you can always reach me on email, or I have my link here on my calendar. You can book some time on my schedule, and we can talk more. Where the requirements are. You said you've seen it on the website, so you're already familiar with that. And that's the conclusion of our presentation for today. I want to thank you for joining me. What other questions can I answer for you before we say goodbye?
So going back to the statement of purpose,
Mhm.
for that you said the 3 main key points. Well, why do you want to be in the program, and then what makes you well suited for the program, and what was the third one?
And how do you plan on utilizing this information and insights from the program to grow your career?
Got it. Okay.
And these are just guiding points. It's not that you have to answer those 3 questions in any particular order.
Got it. Okay. Let me see. Do I have any other questions? I feel like I asked you and Scott the main questions I was a little worried about, just because as I said before, I would prefer to stay working within my field within the program, and I feel like the program is very flexible for students to keep on working full time, which that's amazing. So for the courses itself, the ones that are in person, are they in the, I seen that it was in the afternoon and weekends. Typically, how long do your courses run? Like, for example, I believe next semester your course runs on Mondays from 6 to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Is that how usually the courses run, like once
That's
a
right.
week?
Yeah, once a week. Yeah, exactly. So my classes are once a week. But other professors might have other classes that if you're taking during that week, we try to organize the schedule so you could do classes on other days of the week. The thing is, it says 6 to 10, but I don't think I'm having people on until 10, especially for an online course. So we try to do a lot of hands-on exercise and go through some of the lecture material. But usually I kind of wrap up in 2 to 2.5 hours at the most, just so people can kind of not because it's not about the just lecturing, right? It's about hands-on experience, and we do like projects and so on to 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 increase your learning on a given topic. What was your question? Sorry, I missed the second part of your question. You said which ones were on. No, what was it? Can you remind me?
Oh, no, just which ones, if most of the professors, I guess,
Yeah.
would offer their courses in the afternoon. And I also seen on the website that they offer them on the weekend as well. Is that the case for some of the courses?
Some, yeah, it's not in the afternoon. I think they're all in the evening, if I'm not mistaken, like 6 p.m. onwards.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, they're not in the afternoon. And I think only one professor right now is offering the weekend, Professor Mike Hill. And that also is on like certain Saturdays. I think he just wants people to meet with each other. And that's one of the things he wants to do. So yeah, and I think for my capstone project, I have 2 classes out of the 10 that are in person because I want students to be able to do the in-person presentations and participate in a dialogue with each other rather than just being on a Zoom call and presenting slides. So we've kind of at this point we don't have any set like all classes are online or all are. I think many of us are taking a hybrid approach on the program at the moment.
Oh, okay. That's amazing. I believe those were my only questions.
Great. Yeah, if you need anything else, let me know. I'm here. You can always reach out anytime, and I look forward to seeing you in 283B. And then I'm excited that you've decided to apply and join this program.
Yeah, of course. They just reassured me today that I'm actually excited to join the program. And, I met great students last semester and we kept in touch, and they're all doing amazing work in the industries. So I look forward to meeting even more people.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much. I look forward to working with you and seeing you in course. And yeah,
Thank you, Tanya. Have an
okay.
awesome day.
Likewise.